And we are live again. Hi, everyone. Happy new year to everyone. I know it's first week of the 2025, and many of you are still on holidays, but I've given myself the challenge to continue during 2025 with these Friday lives to support those who are needing some insight, needing some inspiration, and needing some motivation for their leadership, for their teams during 2025. If you are joining me from some of the channels from YouTube or from LinkedIn, feel free to connect and send me a message. That would be lovely. Today, we are talking about trust. And during January, actually, we are going to dive more deeper into how do we, as leaders, build trust, and how do we build kind of that self-knowledge about ourselves as well. So follow me for the upcoming ones as well. Now, today, we are going to dive into three topics, like kind of reverse engineer and decode trust. So we are going to look at what it is, where does it live in our brain, what are the three C's of trust, and often what are the two out of the three that people, especially leaders, overlook, and then the 5 ways to rebuild trust. And as always, I have a little, it's probably more of a metaphor or analogy than a tool that I'm going to share with you at the very end. So stay tuned for that. Shortly, for those who are seeing me for the first time, I'm Zora, and in a nutshell, originally from Finland, lived in Switzerland for over 20 years, also over 20 years in HR, as a licensed psychologist, worked with some of the world leading companies, including Apple, etc. I support executives in their development, and I help companies intervene and disrupt their cultures and develop them as well. As well, keynote speaker and a fractional CHRO for companies who want not full-time support, but perhaps somebody to help ask the right questions. But that's about me. I started actually in December. I started to do these lives because a lot of the connections I had at LinkedIn were saying, well, we miss hearing your ideas and your thoughts, as they used to have that when I worked in the corporate life. So I said, well, why don't I do this regularly? So whoever is there can see it when they want. So here we go. The 3 ones above were the ones that I did in December. And I am lining up for every week a 30-minute live on Fridays. So stay tuned for more. Today, we want to talk about trust. And how do we trust, but also how do we build trust as leaders in our teams? Apologies, I'm a bit under the weather. So let's move ahead with this. I have one of my favorite thought leaders, Simon Sinek, who says, trust is built on telling the truth, not people what they want to hear. And also, Brené Brown is saying that being honest is being kind. That is the part of trust that helps people as well to be at ease, and that also helps us to regulate the part of the brain that does not make us fearful or scared. But when we trust that our leaders is gonna give us the honest truth, also in moments when it might not be what we want, that's when trust is built. But as I promised, we are going to look into what is trust. Is it a decision? Is it a feeling? Can you order trust? Can you tell somebody you have to trust me as a leader? And how can you as a leader help people to lean in and trust to you better? often when I ask this question from the leaders that I work with, they many times say to me, well, trust is a decision, or it's a feeling, it's a gut thing, but somehow that it's controllable. I'm gonna challenge that thinking right now with the knowledge kind of common neurobiology has. Trust is a hormonal response to no threat. Let me say that again. Trust is a hormonal response in our bodies when we are not experiencing any threat. There's something in our brain called pituitary gland. It's like the master chemist. As you know, I like to kind of break down brain as almost like a city. And in this city, there's this master alchemist. And this master alchemist decides what kind of hormones it's going to send throughout the city. And this master chemist is in charge of two really, really powerful hormones that we have. And one of them has to do with trust, and that's oxytocin. It's called the love or the trust hormone, and it helps us to promote bonding. It increases the trust and empathy that we have. It promotes a sense of relaxation and calm. And well, with women, it helps us to deliver and feed babies. And often men almost might sometimes say, well, this is the one that women have when they give birth to babies or breastfeed them. No, men also have oxytocin in them. The same gland produces also, or gives orders to produce a more known hormone called cortisol, which is the stress hormone and also the paranoia hormone. Why am I telling you this? Is because when we are under high levels of cortisol and stress, we start to be paranoia. We start to experience paranoia, and we start to doubt people around us. What are they thinking about us? Are they being honest with us? So it's a biological response to that stress and that level of cortisol in our brains and body. Well, it is great because if we are in a threat situation, it enables our response to it. It regulates the metabolism. It regulates our blood pressure. And it also suppresses our immune response during stress. So we are fully focused on our little caveman inside is fully focused on kind of nailing down that saber-toothed tiger outside, even if it's only an email that we've just received and that has spiked our kind of stress response in us. Now, one thing that many leaders and people don't know is this is a switch. It's a switch. You cannot have both in you at the same time. You cannot have the pituitary gland producing oxytocin, so the love and the trust hormone, and cortisol. So if your teams are currently under stress or coming out of the holidays, coming out of the break and going into a stress mode, and their bodies start the new year with producing cortisol, the switch is on that side. The trust hormone is off. And this is pure science. This is what they have found out by studying the release of oxytocin and stress hormone. And this has been really helpful for leaders when they say, you know what, let's just have a conversation and build trust with my team. And I often say, well, if they have struggled through many months of stress, you are not going to be able to switch on oxytocin for just a session. You need to start to rebuild it over time so that you are reducing the cortisol levels and increasing the oxytocin levels. So this is the biology behind trust. And I often share this with leaders that I work with because they don't know. And they don't know that when a human mind and brain is flooded by cortisol, they are biologically unable to experience trust or even empathy, and that kind of bonding. So this knowledge is really important when building trust. I see some people have joined. Welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comments. Another question that when I work with leaders and executives, I often say, do you trust your team? And it takes usually like 0.7 seconds for them to say, of course, I trust my team. What do you say? Well, of course, I trust them. But this is a different type of trust. And I ask them, what do you mean by trust? What do you do? What do you trust? What do you mean by trust? And usually they say, well, I trust them to do their job. I trust that they do what we've agreed them to do. And it's a beautiful conversation then to say, okay, well, there is what we call the 3 C's of trust. And what you are talking about is the first one, the competency-based trust. So just like you trust them to do their job, do they trust you to do your job as a leader? So that's the competency. Then comes the second, which is the character, like loyalty, integrity, courage. Do you trust their character? And can you specify what the character of that individual is? And why, likewise, can they specify who are you? What is your kind of character and identity as a leader? Are you known for being loyal? Are you known for having courage? Are you known for being creative? Are you known for being kind? Or are you known for delivering results? What is the character, and can they trust on that based on the consistency? That's usually when the leader starts to say, "Oh yes, okay. Well, if you mean with that trust, then let's talk more." So that's the beautiful part when you actually start to decode trust with leaders, and not only look at the competency but also character. Oh, this is where it gets interesting. And then the last one, the third C, is care. Empathy for others in word and action. Do you trust not only that they will do their job, hold their promise, but also have the best intent and care for themselves and for others when it would be easy not to? When it would probably be easier to just care for themselves and kind of throw other people under the bus. The same for yourself. Does your team trust that you do your job as a leader? You are delivering on your promise, and the character that they have gotten to know you also is the consistent one, and that you care in the moments and in the rooms where they are not in. You care, and in your words and actions show that care. If you have heard about these 3 C's of trust before, feel free to drop in the notes and share a bit, like how does that play into your leadership as well? And do you use them perhaps in your way of building trust and defining trust? Now, we've covered the brain neuroscience of trust, and also that trust is not only about how well you do your job. So when you say, I can trust you, or I can trust somebody, first you'll need to understand what's happening in me. What is the threat that my body is and my mind is on and seeing. But then What is it? Is it in their competency? Is it in their character? Or is it in their care that I struggle to trust them with? This is the beautiful part of reverse engineering and breaking down kind of meta themes that otherwise feel so fluffy. But when you start to break them down, you are able to then name it and say, you know what? It's the care bit. I trust that my team or team member, or maybe my leader, does his job or her job. I trust that they are very driven and courageous, etc. But I maybe don't trust that if I don't feel well enough, or if I can't handle it anymore, or if I'm under the water, would this leader also care for me in that moment as well? Hi, Maria. Lovely to have you there. Let me just pull your comment on the slide. I have not heard this framework, but have used all in building trust. Yeah, that is. It's from Matthew D. Matthews, MD Matthews, who built this 3 C's of trust. So I'm not taking any credit for that. But I've found it very useful in decoding this kind of a complex theme into an easier one to say and name where the trust issue perhaps sometimes lies. But also as a leader, how can you build trust in all the 3 levels? Now, 5 ways to rebuild trust. First, as a leader, now that you know that trust is a hormonal reaction to the lack of threat, a lack of perceived stress, so you need to reduce the stress. Yes, as a leader, by identifying and managing the stressors around. Otherwise, the outcome is that your team is not biologically able to produce the oxytocin and therefore produce the hormone they need to feel bonding and trust. And this is sometimes, I know, when leaders are stressed, when a leader is stressed and maybe on the cortisol side of things, they struggle as well. So that's why I work with executives as well, to help first say, how do we help release the stress of the leaders who have their teams then as well? So how do we help to reduce the stress of those leaders who have other leaders around them? So that's the first thing. How do we biologically decode and help turn the switch off from the cortisol to the oxytocin? That's first. Then spending time together with no goal. I know it's super busy, and going even for a lunch with the team is difficult. But this is the part where even if you switch off the cortisol, you will not be able to build oxytocin without connection. The body, just by being by themselves and disconnected, is not able to start building oxytocin without that connection to the person that you want to build that trust with. So start building and reconnecting time together with those, whether it's your team or with that person you perhaps struggle with trust. I have a question. How to confirm as a leader that he or she has built trust with the team? This is a really good question. I actually posted yesterday something about how to spot it. I often, if I look at a team that I enter as a coach or previously as a HR, I looked at the team dynamics, Mumita, and the ability, for example, to speak up is one of the key ones. If the team is in a place where they can speak up well and speak honestly, and there's a high level of this called psychological safety, that they trust each other's reactions versus doubt. They ask for help. They say, I'm sorry. They say, I screwed up. They disclose things about themselves. That is a sign that as a leader, you have been able to create an environment where there's enough trust for people to speak up and show up, versus shut up and close down. And that's a all bigger theme in psychological safety. But that's how, as a leader, if I look at one of the easiest way that you can spot how much trust is there in a team, is by looking at how much are they able to show up as authentically in a team, as well as speak up there. Hope this answers your question, Momita. Thank you so much for that. So, and one of the things that you need to, in order to get there as a leader, is to open up and mask down. You cannot expect the team to trust you if you don't open up and mask down and share what you are experiencing as a human being as well. And often I've worked a lot with male-dominated industries, technology, with Apple for 9 years, and telecoms and life science. And this masking down, especially for men, is a tricky one, because the society expects you to be a Superman. And not to mask down and say, hey, you know what, I screwed up, or I don't know, or help me out in here. But that's the vulnerability is the, like Maria, I'm going to bring your comment right there. Being vulnerable and having transparency is what I look for in a leader. You are not alone there, Maria. There's a lot of research that shows that the moment people mask down, others lean in, because they appreciate the vulnerability that somebody is daring to show. And as a leader, if you want to build trust, it starts by you opening up and asking down. And if you have a team which is struggling with trust, you can be very open and say, we are going to start this year, and I want to share with you that this is my goal, and where I need your help is to build the trust with each other, and help me out as a leader to know what each one of you need, because I might be struggling to read the team right. And that level of vulnerability and masking down and opening up can help a team to feel that it's safe to share what they need as well. Laugh and smile. So science has proven to us that there are ways, very natural ways, to induce oxytocin in us. And one of it is laughter. Now, many leaders say, but I'm not a jokes man. I don't know how to make jokes. And this is nothing to do about jokes. This is just being able to lighten up. Don't talk about the bloody KPIs on the first weeks of January. Talk about the silly gifts that your wives gave you. Show the socks, show the underwear, and you say why that I don't know why I keep on getting these from my wife, or husband, but make it lighter, and give your brains and people a way to have a laugh, have a smile. And that helps people to feel also more connected, and signals to the brain that there's no threat. That's also very important in our very busy environments, that we create the moments for laughter and smile. And like I said, it's not about your ability to pull up a joke, but share something about yourself, or ask people, what was the silliest gift you got? And like that, create a habit of that laughter and smiles. And touch. Now, I know I'm an HR, ex-HR. This is a very, very delicate place to walk in, to encourage people to trust. I worked 9 years at Apple, and Apple is a high five culture. Before COVID, it was hugs and high fives all the time. Then COVID came, and we went, oh my God, what do we do now? And we had this odd feet bumps when lockdowns went off. We would bump our feet. That didn't survive after COVID passed, because it was really not us. And now later on, then we had the kind of fist bumps that we did. Touch, apart with laughter, touch is the other way that our bodies release oxytocin. A little tap on the shoulder, high five, fist bump, or hug. Everybody knows what is appropriate hug, or too long hug, or inappropriate hug. That's the easiest way to release oxytocin in your body. So somebody, a leader, wanting to build or rebuild trust with a person or in a team, here are some few ways that you can think through. How do I go about it? Now, as promised, I will be sharing with you not the tool this time, but kind of like a mental analogy that I often help my leaders and executives to remember. Before I do that, I see Maria shared, I love number 4. It reminds me of forced fun. You can, I'm going to pull that up. It's so good. I love number 4. It reminds me of forced fun. You can tell if a leader is authentic or just checking a box. Yeah, totally. Yeah, please, no. Been there, done that. And that kind of creates a different type of a dynamic in a team when you try to pull a joke and you're just not funny as a jokes teller. So please, not that. But there are different ways to lighten up the meeting and the conversation. Thanks, Maria, for that reminder. So people coming from holidays, coming to work. Often going to work is almost like going to a gym. Like you go and you do your workout and you work on a goal and you do your push-ups, you pull the weights and whatnot. And probably your like 90% or even 100% of your week feels like that. And what I encourage all the leaders and executives I work with is to find moments like the campfire moments, right? Have you ever watched a campfire with someone in silence and something quite magical happens there? You feel connection. You don't need even words, but there is this trust that builds and the connection that you just have around it. So the way I try to help the executives to think about the week is like, where are your campfire moments? How do you build regular campfire moments in where you are not talking about your KPIs, you are not talking about your goals, but where people come, they reduce their stress, they laugh, they listen to each other, they open, they put their masks down, they connect and talk openly. And yeah, they maybe touch and high five as well. So all those 5 things that I mentioned before. So where are your campfire moments in January, in the coming week when people are coming to work, so that they can kind of come together and reconnect as a team without any goal? So that is what I'm going to leave you with for the coming January 2025. Build in the campfire moments to rebuild and build trust in your teams. If you have any questions, I can still take some. I have a minute or 2 there time. If not, thank you so much for joining me, Maria and Mumita and others. Thanks so much for joining me today on the first week of January. Really appreciate you showing up here, and see you next week. Have a great start for the January.